Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm recording this video on December the 30th. As we come to the end of 2022, I am wishing all my viewers and everyone in your family and your friends a very, very happy new year. 2023 hopefully will be the best year yet. So wishing all the best to you guys. In today's video, I would like to talk about, and I think it's a pretty good topic as we end this year and start a new beginning, is stop blaming yourself. This is a topic that I often hear from my clients in my sessions. And one of my clients actually requested that I do a video on just this. So we're going to talk about stop blaming yourself because it was never your fault. Right. So where do we start to get this blame game? Or when, or how does it actually manifest itself within us that we are to be blamed for everything that goes wrong in our life? And why is it that we actually accept it when someone blames us for what is happening to them? Well, I would go back to childhood. I would go back to family systems. I would go back to family dynamics and toxic family relationships. When a child is abused and neglected, and abuse can be in the form of emotional, physical, verbal, sexual, and then neglect, then we often hear that the child has been blamed for the way they were being disciplined, or when the parents were dismissing of them when they came to them for safety and security. They were not responsive, they were not attentive. And actually, where we find dysfunction and toxic relationships within family systems, it's not that it just started with that particular family system. Actually, these dynamics are generational. And we hear, and we really dig deeper into a person's family history, we realize that there was maybe a suicide in the family, or there was mental illness in the family, or there was alcohol and abuse and drug use in the family. And I'm talking about grandparents to great-great-grandparents. So abuse gets passed on from generation to generation. And so one of the things that I would like to actually point out is that when the child goes to the parent and says, my sibling is beating me, or my sibling hit me, or my sibling hid my homework that I had to take to school, but I cannot find it, because the sibling actually hid the homework to get the sibling into trouble. So when they go to the parent, that the parent is non-responsive, in other words, saying, well, it's your fault. You should have taken better care of your homework. Why did you leave it laying around? So that's one example. The other example is when the child goes to the parent and says, I need more clothes. I don't have enough clothes, and my clothes are really very old. They don't fit me anymore. And the parent says, well, I have to buy clothes for your siblings, and I don't have enough money to buy it for you. And you really don't need any clothes. And I did not want to have you anyways, and now I'm stuck with you. So do the best you can with what you have. And another excuse would be if the mother is having a bad day or a father is having a bad day, they come home and actually blame the child for wanting their attention or wanting to play with them. And then they get scolded, or they get beaten, or they get verbally abused, or just kind of told to go away. And the child is blamed for the parent not having the time to spend with them. Another excuse that I often hear is that when a child goes to the parent and says, my brother is trying to sexually attack me, and the parent says, well, you must have done something for him to have wanted to do that. And even calling names like you're a slut, or you must have wanted it. rather than going and scolding or talking to the sibling. Instead, the one that came and complained and asked for safety and security, instead of meeting that need, they were actually blamed for what was happening. So these constant messages of being blamed when the child is reaching out to the parent for help and support, instead, the parent is not only not willing to give that, but actually become emotionally and verbally abusive towards the child. That child is going to then develop this belief that it's always their fault because they're not worthy enough, they're not good enough, that they are bad, and that they feel tremendous amount of shame. And we see a lot of addiction and dysfunctional behavior patterns with people that grow up in families where there was this abuse. And again, like I said earlier, it is generational. So at some point, one has to stop and recognize that it was not your fault. And it's very painful for a child that the person who they're looking for safety and security is the one that is giving them a very frightening experience or making them feel even more worse than they were, and that there is no safety and no security, and that there's no one there for them, and that find themselves totally alone. So a lot of loneliness, a lot of feeling of helplessness, hopelessness, a feeling of despair. And then as one becomes an adult, they get into relationships that actually repeat that pattern. They find people that are abusive by nature. And if they get involved with a narcissist, they're going to get blamed for everything. So there's a lot of, in families where there is, where the blame is being put on the child, there's a lot of gaslighting. There's a lot of trauma bonding. There's a lot of dismissing of the child, a lot of neglect and blame. And so there comes a time when one must pull back and say, wait a minute, this couldn't have been my fault. I needed this and my parents could not provide this for me. And I'm not saying that let's blame the parent because, like I said, it's generational. But someone has to stop this generational abuse. I would recommend getting into therapy. I recommend doing a lot of mindfulness so you can actually go within yourself through your breathing techniques and recognize those emotions, those feelings, which are entities, which are actually energies within yourself. Recognize that, become aware of that, become conscious of that. You can work through and process through those emotions. When they are triggered, they don't take over and become a loop for you to where it's going back and forth. And that you can process this. And yes, you can. You can get over these abusive patterns that are generational. You can actually change the belief system that it was your fault and to recognize it wasn't your fault. And the other part of it is that that's the ego conditioning, that one starts to develop from early childhood. So when there's a repeated message, it's your fault, you're to be blamed for what is happening in the family system, or if there's a financial crisis, it's your fault. If there's a problem between parents, it's your fault. So blaming, you can stop that blame from not blaming yourself anymore and becoming more empowered, more conscious, and more aware of your own presence and of you in a state of consciousness. I'm wishing you the best. If you liked my video, please put a comment or two about this video. Thank you so much. And I'm wishing you the best in 2023. Take care.